a person has faith in an objective when the person beholds in that objective an ultimate value. If there is no visualization of an ultimacy of value in the object of faith, that faith also will not be ultimately valid. Now, how does one develop a faith at all? What are the causative factors that engender faith in people in general? It is very difficult easily to answer this question, because empirical observation characteristic of human knowledge does not seem to be involving such a category in human life as faith. Scientists, for instance, discredit faith as an ultimate process of correct knowing. No scientist will go by faith. There is always a demand for observation and experiment, intellectual investigation, and laboratory finding by means of the employment of different types of apparatus available. But faith is debarred from scientific thinking. Do people have a faith in anything? No one can say that people do not have a faith. In fact, it does not appear that people live by their logical conclusions rather than live by their faiths. Everyone knows that the earth revolves around the sun. There is no such thing as rising of the sun or setting of the sun. But do we always say, now the earth has revolved in a particular direction and it is in another location and we call it morning or evening? We say the sun has risen, the sun has set. Now sun is in the midday height of the sky. There is a belief also that we survive after death, which cannot easily be established by logical conclusions. Why should there be a faith, for instance, in the survival of the soul after death? What kind of logical argument can you adduce to prove the substantiality of this faith? Something speaks from within the person. I have done so many good things in this world. I have done a lot of charity. I have sacrificed myself for the welfare of people. will all this go to a waste? And will I not be rewarded for the feelingful sacrifice that I performed for the welfare of people? Knowing well that life is brittle and tomorrow may be the end of this physical body. If tomorrow is to be the final hour of one's existence in this world, why does one try to do good deeds today, 24 hours before the passing? How would one expect the good deeds of today to bear a fruit for one's own experience and enjoyment, knowing well there may not be more than 24 hours of living in this world? Here is a faith which goes beyond understanding, that tells us that somehow or other, for whatever reason it be, my virtuous deeds will not go waste. I shall be rewarded. People want a good name in this world. May I go from this world with a good name? Where is the good name of any value if you are leaving this world and going somewhere you know not? One does not want to leave this world with ignominy. But when you are not existing at all, where is the question of ignominy or even name and fame? Here is a very subtle, intriguing feature of human understanding and faith which defies logic and any kind of syllogism. Very well known fact it is that no one can know when the end comes. Knowing it, who will do good deeds in this world? But for the fact of a belief that these good deeds will be rewarded in an afterlife, though no one has seen, even in one's dream, what an afterlife would be. Who tells anyone that there is survival of the physical mortality of a person? This is faith. Now, would you regard this faith as valid, or is it a foolish concoction of human imagination? I believe no one in this audience or anywhere would feel that there is a meaningless imagination behind this kind of faith. For the reason that everyone in the world has this faith. It is not my faith or yours, but it is a uniform feeling in every human being. Do you call it faith or rationality? People offer prayers. To whom are they offering prayers? Are these prayers directed to visible objects in this world? Certainly not. Our prayers in our altars, in our temples, in our synagogues, in the churches are certainly directed to some unknown categorization of existence of which there is absolutely no understanding, which cannot be proved by logical arguments. After all, providence will protect us is an old saying. What do you mean by providence? Where is it situated? Has anyone seen providence? So unseen things are believed by people for reasons they themselves cannot know. Every religion, every faith is directed to an otherworldly existence. If a belief in a type of life in a world beyond this world is not to be there, there would be no moment of peace in the mind of a person even in this world. We would be caught by mortal fear every moment of time, not knowing the meaning of our life itself. But we do not have such a fear, because we know one day or other we are going to be blessed. Who told you that you are going to be blessed? Which book? Which prophet? And which prophecy is going to confirm you that you are going to be blessed one day or the other for your good deeds? And what do you mean by good deeds? Who told you that your actions are good or bad? This also is a classification made by a kind of faith which transcends understanding. There is something which the heart speaks. It has its own logic. As it is well said, the heart has a reason which reason does not know. Have we some faculty in us which is above reason, which is decried by scientific pursuers? Those who go by the laws of physics and chemistry. Religions in the world, we call the faith of people, adore a non-physical existence, addressing them in various ways. The divinities, the angels, the gods in heaven, the celestials, what not. These acceptances of the presence of mysterious forces above nature is the working of a deep faculty within, which is faith. The scientist's conclusion that the observation that has been made in a laboratory is correct to the core is also ultimately a kind of hypothesis based on certain assumptions without which premise a conclusion cannot be drawn. The scientist who does not believe in any kind of hypothesis has himself or herself a hypothesis that the world is there, concretely presented before the sense organs. Is the belief in the existence of an externality of worldly existence or earthly life can be regarded as something proved by logic? Can you prove that the world exists? Can you prove that you are existing? Such fundamentals go beyond logical proof. Neither can you argue out the existence of a world outside, nor can you argue the existence of your own self. You have to accept that you are existing, and you have to accept that the world also exists. Do you call it faith or reason? Why are there religions in this world? But for the fact that there is a supernatural acceptance of the fact of there being divinities beyond earthly concepts in a world beyond, of which one cannot have any kind of rational knowledge. Why are there differences among faiths? Was perhaps the reason why this subject requires to be discussed in a forum of this kind. Is there a general belief among all people unanimously that there is a ubiquitous superphysical existence pervading everywhere, or is there a multifaceted belief in the existence of a variety of realities beyond this world? This is a deep philosophical issue which raises as many questions as there are faiths in this world. The differences among faiths that we observe in this world can in some way be attributed to geographical conditions, different types of cultural background, difference in language, difference in upbringing, and various other external influences which condition the way of thinking right from the beginning of one's life. Unconditioned thinking is difficult to find. We are conditioned by the parents, by the atmosphere of our living, by the culture of the people to whom we belong, and to the scriptures we read, the books that are our friends, and the company that we keep. There is an old saying, tell me the books that you read and the company that you keep. I shall tell you what you are. So much is the effect of influence of external factors in human nature, so that it is difficult to accept that we are independently capable of coming to any conclusion by our own self minus this influence. Is it good then? The question arises once more, to have a diversity of faith in this world. Generally it is believed that diversity of faith and multiplicity of religious values cannot be avoided for well-known reasons. Can there be a harmony among these faiths? Or should there be always a clash among the faiths? As I mentioned at the outset, the belief in the ultimacy of the object of one's belief is responsible for denying this particular ultimacy to other faiths of people and sticking to one's own ground, that the ultimate meaning that I observe in the object of my faith cannot be the very meaning that others are seeing in their own objects of faith. This would be like saying that many kinds of ultimacies are possible. Rather, it would be another way of saying that there can be many infinites. If infinites cannot be many, ultimacies also cannot be manifold. Hence, there is some serious defect in the faith of a person who comes in conflict with the faith of other people, not knowing that the differences in faith are something like the differences in the rivers of the world, which lead to the one single ultimacy of the ocean towards which they are directed. But the egoism of the human being is so strong, it sticks to its point. What I feel is ultimate, and I cannot accept the ultimacy of your feeling or conclusions. The differences of faith, as mentioned, may be attributed to cultural backgrounds. Of course, let them be there. There is no harm in that. But why should there be conflict unless there is an egoism at the back of every faith? It is not difficult to accept that ego is a malady in human thinking, because if the immortality of the soul is already permitted to be an acceptable faith, then the ego-ridden conclusions behind the faith of people will come in conflict with the other faith of the immortality of the soul. The belief in the survival of the soul after death is actually a belief in the deathlessness of the soul, immortality of spirit. But the affirmation of individual personality, which is nothing but a characteristic of psychophysical organism, is openly in conflict with that other concept in one's own self of the immortality of spirit. So there is a clash of psychic operation in one's own self, even in one's dual beliefs of immortality of one's existence and the privacy and ultimacy of one's own ego-ridden concept of the ultimacy of belief. We have to go deep into this matter in order to understand what it all means. When we pass from this world and go into the other world, do we exist in the same way as we are existing now in this world? Or do we believe that we get transfigured? It is mentioned in the Mahabharata, towards the end of it, that when Yudhishthira went to heaven, he saw the opponents, Duryodhana and others, reigning supreme in heaven, and he would not find any one of his brothers or his own queen. He was shocked. Where are my brothers? He asked Indra. How is it that this wretched evil man Duryodhana is here on the throne of the god, and I do not see my own brothers? Well, the story goes that he is led across through certain narrow tracks, dark, dungeon-like, stinking in nature, where Indra said, your brothers are. Is it true that in this hell-like condition, my brothers are living and Duryodhana is reigning supreme on the throne of the heaven? I shall stand here with my brothers and I shall not go back to your... No, Indra said, you are fit for heaven. You should not stand here. Come on. No, I shall not, he said. Indra said, my dear friend, you are still thinking like a human being. You are a Yudhishthira of the earthly kingdom. Take a bath in this celestial reservoir. Take a dip in it. Let me see what he says. Yudhishthira took a dip in that reservoir. When he rose up as an angel, a mirror in which every other mirror shone, and all the ideas that he had of his brothers, his enemies, vanished, and he found every soul reflecting itself in every other soul. This is the picture of heaven we have in the Mahabharata epic towards its end. When we depart from this world as spirits, do we go as mortals? We carry our prejudices of the physical and social personality to the heaven which is above us, for attaining which we are having this belief in religion and faith. If our true nature, which is what we ought to be in our heavenly region, is a scintillating, resplendent, mirroring existence which reflects every other existence within itself, how could that true nature of ours, which is a scintillating reality, not be reflected in our day-to-day human life here, in our social existence? Is there any meaning and substance in our quarrels and wars based on religion and faith if you believe in an afterlife wherein place you live a different kind of life altogether with a comprehensiveness of universality entering into the souls of all people? Herein is something for us to ponder deep into the honesty of our own beliefs. Do we feel contradiction in the faith that we are entertaining in our own selves? Is actually the faith only a make-believe, a kind of patting on one's own back, which means nothing in the end? Religion, faith which is spiritual in its nature, is the honesty of spirit, to which I made some reference in the morning today. Dishonest people do not go to heaven. And ego is the height of dishonesty, and that you cannot carry to the heavenly region, the after-death existence. But it is this melody that is preponderating in human existence today that causes wars, strifes, and corruptions of various types visible to us in daily life. Therefore, we have to be little more than our own selves in order that we may have harmony among faith and religions. I mean to say, you have to transcend your own self in order that you may be more than what you are, and you can be also another person than what you are. In order that there may be real harmony among faith and religions, we have to concede to other people what we are conceding to our own self. Atmanah pratikūlāni pareshām nachamācharetu is a great ethical dictum. That which is not proper for you cannot be proper for others. Great thinkers in the realm of ethics and morality have ordained that alone can be regarded as proper behavior which accepts all humanity, the world as a whole, as a kingdom of ends and not means. No one in the world can be regarded as a means to some other person as an end. You cannot employ a person as a servant of another person, because the so-called social status of servants and slaves in the world is an unfortunate characteristic of servitude foisted upon them due to helplessness, due to the carelessness of society. Otherwise, even a slave is an end in himself and herself. There is a soul in the slave as much as in an emperor or a king. How can one soul be a servant of another soul? Do you recognize that all particulars are ends in themselves and constitute a kingdom of ends? That would be the fundamental philosophical and rational foundation for it being possible for people to have a harmony of faith and religions in the world. To repeat, it is necessary to transcend yourself in order that you may accept the value of another person. If you are just clinging to your own personal, physical and mental personality, you will not be able to accept even the existence of another person. There is a superior personality in ourselves, a higher reason, a higher self, as we are told, great masters. There is a higher self in us which commingles with the selves of other people, but a lower self also is there which always sees evil everywhere and comes in conflict with other people. Unless we accept the presence of a higher self in our own selves, and we also concede that in our after-death life we will not be the same people as we are today here. We should be mirrors of spiritual resplendence reflecting one in the other, which is supposed to be the nature of Brahmaloka according to scripture, where everyone is everywhere and you do not know who is where, in which place. Everything will be seen reflected everywhere. All souls are all souls. Every soul is all soul is every soul. This is Brahmaloka, the highest heaven conceived of. If that is your real nature, how would you live this kind of wretched life of conflict, quarrel and disbelief among people, even if there is a difference of faith and religions? The differences among faith and religions is due to the unfortunate segregation of cultural values, geographical conditions, languages, etc., as I mentioned, but they are not true to the personality of a human being. We are human beings first. Hindus and Buddhists and Jains and Sikhs and all other things afterwards. We are human beings first. And in every religious person there is human nature preponderating, and no other thing can influence this human element in every person. If I am a human being, if you are a human being, then there is something common among ourselves. Any other designation that we have foisted upon ourselves on conjectures of certain beliefs which cannot actually be regarded as ultimately meaningful will have to be abandoned. We have to be very, very careful here in order that we may be blessings to our own selves. We cannot be receivers of blessing from heaven if we have no blessing to our own self from our own self. If we go contrary to our own nature, and every action of ours is a conflict within ourselves, we are ridden over with psychological discrepancies. There is non-alignment of personality, which creates non-alignment in society. And there is naturally conflict everywhere. We are ourselves torn individuals. We create a torn society. How would you join society together if individuals who form the society are scattered and torn, are shreds psychologically and psychoanalytically? Should we not be honest to our own selves in this matter and have the courage to go to the depths of our problems? Merely saying that there are problems is of no meaning. If there are problems, there are also solutions to problems. If you do not want to find a solution and only parade the problems and you go on yelling out that there are problems in the world and corruption everywhere, we will be nowhere actually. Let us therefore be honest and go deep into the problems of life and see that there is a solution if we really want it, and there is certainly a possibility of not only an interblending of the religions and faiths of people, but it is possible to bring heaven to this earth as great masters have told us. Hari Om Tat Sat.